And we should be alive, my friends. My friends. It's been a nice week, hasn't it? Right, to address something said in chat. Ever heard of Anthony Rogers? He just put up another video, up another one you might like. Would love to see him debate you. Shouldn't be too hard, as apparently his parents dropped him on his head as a baby on purpose. If we are thinking of the same Anthony Rogers, yes, the person who cannot tell Pelagius and Saint Augustine apart. So I'm aware of him. He is good against Muslims, I have to say. But I would be happy to debate him. It's just that he is I don't think he debates other Christians all that much. Sam Shamoon has been what was it been calling him? Has been on his trail for years at this point. So hello everyone. Hello Chairfolders United. Hello Nicodemus Serpico. Punromblum. What's up? Well, everything's up, including stock markets, Bitcoin. It's been a busy week for me, I have to say. And first of all, I'd like to apologize to Liz because I found out that we will be overlapping for our streams. But it's sort of the last chance to talk about the election in the election week. And I've finished, my exams this morning. I got 3 of them. so you can see by my eyes, I'm a very, very well-rested individual right now. Time to be distracted by an epic posh stream. Well, D-Sims, you in the United Kingdom have about the opposite of what they've got in the United States, where it's elation. You had quite a series of disturbances by Keir Starmer, especially the thing with the farmers and the inheritance tax, like bloody communists. So I was studying going, are you a master drug man? I have to look up the pronunciation in English of the let's see. Yes. Just write it out in bloody IPA. Bloody Philistines. Basically, it's a pharmacognosy. It's a word that's made up of pharmakia and gnosis. So it's pure truth of porn of a word. It basically means, knowledge of I don't know how to say it, of any products that might have pharmacological applications. But I have to do something with that word. Apparently, America is unified now. Trump is a president for all, even those who didn't vote for him. The coalition that he has built around himself has massively increased popularity and his ability to unify the country. We will talk about that, but before we talk about anything, we need beers. So cheers and beers and chairs and damn it, no one in the chat with a name I can add to this calophonic array. Well, Emmanuel, you are being ceremoniously deported from this chat. Even though I believe you are in Mexico, but we're on a high right now. So I'd like to mention that Serbia had the highest approval ratings for Trump in Europe. Again, Serbia is doing its best to counterbalance the cringe that we find in the North and the West. Eastern Europe in general, because I believe the second and third were Bulgaria and Hungary, both bordering Serbia. Russia was pretty high, like 43, 44%, but then Kamala was at 13. Denmark really, really, I have no idea how someone was that bad, like 87 for Kamala and 3 for Trump. Pathetic, absolutely pathetic, but there you go. I said I would do a stream on how everyone is basically richer or poorer middle class nowadays. What happened in the UK? Well, a lot of things, but the farmer thing I'm mentioning is that they're going to impose a 40% inheritance tax for any family farm worth more than £1 million, which is a lot of them. And they will do the classic, tax evaluation thing, and which is a tax man will come and evaluate your property, and it's outstanding. So Jeremy Clarkson again voicing his support. I've heard him say that somehow his farm does not fall into this category, so if he were to lead it, it would actually be a distraction. But it's just outstandingly vile. And the reason why Peter Hitchens said, do not vote as a spasm, emotional spasm against the Tories, because you have no idea whom you're dealing with when it comes to Keir Starmer. I don't know if that person's even human, He does interviews and he hasn't got, he doesn't really listen to music. He hasn't got a favorite film, or anything. He's a creature of pure ideology. And he is a very radical leftist. And just like, although inferior in quality, he is, you wouldn't say that he was some extremist, much like with Tony Blair. Because Tony Blair was a disaster for the UK and an extreme radical, but he was called a blue Labour, leader of the blue Labour movement, right? These sort of more right-leaning Labour members. Meanwhile, he was more radical than Jeremy Corbyn. It's just that Jeremy Corbyn wore it on his sleeve. I've started farming strawberries. Started. So we can sue you for false advertisements up to this point. Is that what you're saying? Will America have to liberate the UK in this century? Can it? We will get to that. Why farm? They want to destroy it. Obviously, because you will become more dependent on the import-export lobby. And if you're dependent on food from abroad, the entities with global tentacles are much easier it's much easier for them to deal with you, to coerce you into a direction that they see fit. And as Jeremy Clarkson said, to produce a British sausage, in Britain, you would have to sell it for 88p. To import it, it's about, 83p or something. And to import it, it's 18p. For Americans, p is just short for, cents, pennies. So, you're going to you have to deal with the fact that you are already being outbid, and now they want to take what you've got for the privilege of giving it to your children. It's a great job. Baron Strawberry should be renamed Commissar Strawberry because he's doing strawberry communism here. Hello, Melaforta. Hello, Slowboy Whiteboard. Hello, Baron Commissar. We need to get back to the streaming. Sorry, I was a bit out of it. Đorđe Dimitrijević says, da li će Trump da vrati vojnike iz Bonstila da pokaže kako se to radi da troluje Bidena zbog Afganistana? So he's asking, will Trump take the soldiers out of Bonsteel, which is the American base in Kosovo, to show how trolling is done to Biden because of Afghanistan? We shall see. Things are still unstable. They're still stabilizing after the election. We have seen good movements on the international stage. I'm most hopeful for Ukraine. About Israel, and we'll get to it later, things are very, very complex. And again, Israel has slid further in their chances to do anything constructive, although both Hamas and the Houthis have called for peace and ceasefire. And it may even happen that Israel will accept, but we'll get to that later. First, the election itself, and then, as I wrote in the description, some thoughts on the consequences. Right. If he fixes the Middle East, one of the leading theories on why Hamas attacked on October 7th was that should the Abraham Accords had gone through, Gaza would have been a non-entity by now. They would have slid into irrelevance. But it seems that Israel has been taught a lesson. The military is aware of it. The propaganda apparatus obviously will never even mention anything approximating that. Something approximating that. But yeah. So as was mentioned, a lot of us foreigners very interested in American politics, especially presidential politics, because it affects us more than, in a lot of places, more than our local elections. So that being said, let's get started. So it's been a couple of months. I had a disagreement with Andrew over on Twitter, because even though he supported Trump, he believed that Trump would not be allowed in, and I disagreed. And the reason why I disagreed was that, as far as I'm concerned, the regime realizes that their demoralization tactics have gone too far. Recruitment rates are pathetic, in large part due to humiliation after humiliation on the world stage, geopolitically speaking, economically speaking, and then additionally with the culture wars, the wokeification of the military, things like Milley, General Milley, talking about, I want to know what white rage is. So such ideological, not just superfluous, but superficial and superfluous nonsense, to the point that America had to decommission certain vessels. They haven't got the manpower to pilot these vessels. Now, if you're a global hegemon and you are the military arm of the global system, you and you're primarily a naval power. Just to remind everyone, America is a naval power more than anything. You can't allow yourself to be put in a position where your population is so demoralized that you can't even get you can't even get vessels operating. Oh, here's Mud for 10 USD. Thank you very much, Mud. With the current exchange rate, you should be able to purchase 2 goats and 4 female mink. Hopefully this will help support you for the winter. Thank you very much. So yes, the markets responded positively as a crypto, obviously, because of what Trump has promised. It's still a promise. We will see what happens. The problem with crypto is it's too unstable to be used as a currency. And unstable, I mean, due to its fluctuations in value. But it has, as a speculative asset, and I've said this from the beginning, since I've started mentioning, cryptocurrencies, a speculative asset that is pretty reliable and obviously has been increasing in value. But again, too susceptible to fluctuations in short term. Andrew and Posh hate each other now. Yes. You heard it here first. Posh demands we choose Andrew not allowed stream in his slot nor speak his name. Yeah, he's trying to steal my spot. I can't remember any of the quotes from Owen about that. So sorry. Yes, I hate Andrew and Rachel now because we had a different projections for the election. But as I said, you need to allow the patriotic candidate in to remoralize the people. The problem for them being that he is not pleased with the way he's been treated, and the coalition he's constructed, he's gathered around himself, including people like Tulsi Gabbard, like RFK Jr., like Elon Musk, provides him, as I said, with a much wider appeal than if it were just the 2016 Trump. So I think Serpico mentioned this earlier, that Biden, the fact that there was an intermission of the Biden administration has actually made things worse, because had Trump just continued on, sure, the MAGA movement would be a continuous one in power, but two reasons why a lot of people would switch or at least be demoralized enough not to vote for the Democratic candidate was that the first time people didn't know what to expect. They were all, high on fear-mongering from the media, from pundits online, from all sorts of, culturally influential people, the actors, the musicians, the writers, etc. So that's why we had the freakout was much, much larger than what we have seen this time around. Because now he's a known quantity. And what's also a known quantity is how much the opposition sucks. So that's why we don't see as much hysteria as we saw the last time. But also why there's a chance for effective governance. Not to mention the clean sweep, both in the presidential level, which was won both popular and electoral, very convincingly. Governance. What do you call it? A gubernatorial race. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. The gubernatorial races did well. The Senate, the House, everything is going extremely well. So you've got a very strong mandate and a very motivated person to go after it. Magdalene M sends $10. Thank you, Magdalene. Now everyone can send many more super chats because we're all rich now. Because we're all gold plated after Wednesday, I suppose. So let me read a couple of these before I move on. It's more useful as a hedge against the flat fiat dollar than as an actual medium of exchange for the moment. Yes, that's how I see it. You still need currency, regular currency, because you will reflect the value of said crypto in that currency. I can't have a set price for a Bitcoin if it can fall drastically or rise drastically in the course of a day. Right, that's why I said, but it has many uses, especially as store of value. I have a friend who is convinced that Christ was just a retelling of the old horrors, the conquering child, Mithras, etc. What is the best way to explain to him that Christianity is not a Gnostic deception? So I'm going to have to suggest Inspiring Philosophy did a series on these, and he did a very decent job of creating short videos that debunk such nonsense. So go to Inspiring Philosophy, Jesus versus X, all sorts of these mythological entities that he's being compared to. They just make it up. That's the whole zeitgeist, what's it called? Jesus mythicism. It's just made up, and a lot of it due to the work of a laughable amateur Egyptologist. So yeah, that's the best I can do, because he did something I am apparently, biologically incapable of. He was concise, and it's very easy to share. I agree with Nancy Pelosi. It was Biden's fault. Well, sure. I do know Carl Benjamin Sagan of Akkad. I've mentioned him for a while now as my favorite person to watch give up on classical liberalism, and that's been going on for quite a while. Bosch is the king of brevity. I should be the Democratic candidate for brevity. Bitcoin is just the entrance drugs for people to normalize cryptocurrency, so country would put their own state-controlled ones where they can freeze your assets anytime they want. You can do that with a lot of other things. If you just eliminate paper currency, you can do that. It's not that simple, because what happened is that basically you've got Bitcoin and the rest is experimental. And Bitcoin is quite experimental. So is Inspiring Philosophy orthodox? No. No, and I wouldn't recommend him for theology or Bible study. But as far as just comparing Jesus to like Horus and Mithras and whichever member of the Hindu pantheon, no. Yes, I could suggest him for that. I agree with the DPH that one thing that trips people up is putting too much stock in Renaissance text for explanation of post-antiquity. Yeah, I keep saying Renaissance was a stillbirth. If I need to explain that, Renaissance means rebirth in French. It's not a genuine resurrection of paganism. It's sort of a proto-neo-paganism, right? They're trying to install modern, ancient software on, for that time, modern hardware, and it's just not working. And you can see that, for example, of how many times and in how many places they've depicted Eros. Apparently, Eros is the greater than Zeus and Poseidon and Hades combined. Well, Emmanuel, for Mexicano, I don't know what this, $30 Mexican, investing in Serbian cloud. Thank you so much, well, Emmanuel. That's a good bribe for not getting deported. Boschkish gallops for breakfast. Did you seriously consider launching BitGoat? Goat herds on blockchain in the Balkans. I'm building the infrastructure for it. I can't talk about it. I'm not at liberty. Isn't Mithras post-Christ? Well, depends on how you look at it. But Mithras, the things they do to make the connections is like he was born of a virgin, but Mithras was like born out of a rock. So sure, I guess virgin rock. Right, I don't want to go into Bitcoin. Sorry, I don't want to be accused of of just going off on tangent. Mithras was born of a stone. Yes, so technically born from a virgin. You made the exact point I did, Chairs. There's just that there's a bit of a delay between you sending a chat and me seeing it. Hello, Rip. W's in the chat for Rip for his new child. As I said, lots of things to celebrate. And we shall go back to the topic. So I talked about the appeal that he has now, and the lack of hatred and hysteria on the other side, which is good. And as far as watching the elections themselves, I think, as far as Serbia is concerned, it was 1 a.m. when we got first results or something like that. So, and I could stay up until like 4 something. I just couldn't stop watching because everything was going swimmingly. But things were going pretty well the last time, and I went to sleep and I woke up and things were not going all that well anymore. So I didn't want that to repeat itself, that famous / infamous vertical jump, near perfectly vertical jump. So yeah. Hello, study of stuff. I told you I'd stream, and here I am. And I was genuinely surprised that things went that well, because I thought that if there was a sufficient discrepancy in the popular vote in favor of Trump, was the only way to avoid potential, troubles that could be, fanned, let's say, by the ruling elite. Although, as I said, this is a time for remoralization. But they would not, give it full reign. You don't want to. You don't want him to be too successful, because he'll get too much credit, and therefore the movement itself, the ideological movement, would gain a lot of traction. J.D. Vance would get a lot of traction. Ramaswamy would get a lot of traction, and a whole host of MAGA politicians like Matt Gaetz and so on. I also should note, like, the possibility of having Ron Paul as an advisor is outstanding, because what I talked about that Ron Paul, first of all, the only libertarian I absolutely cannot hate. I don't know what he would have to do for me to hate him, but he's also 89, I believe. I doubt he'll be traveling to DC. That would be awesome. But his optimism, I found always so bloody defeating, because he's been saying for decades, I think that the message of liberty is really resonating. I'm like, oh, my friend. Gotta go get some beer. Posh, I want to do a stream with you. Cradle Orthodox perspective. I'm Greek, you Serb. Balkan Brothers, lol. Okay, we can do that. I'm open for a while now, before the next set of exams are on the 1st of December, and then I'm going to have quite a few weeks before the next batch. And I'm happy that that's the case. So yes, we can do something. English people are Balkan brothers too. I wish I could agree with it. The Irish certainly seem like it. Okay, you can message me over Instagram. It's the easiest, and I believe we follow each other there. The amount of votes compared with last time is interesting. Brandon was really popular. Yeah, so my opinion on that is that it's easy to explain a drop. Let's assume full legitimacy of 2020. It's easy to expect a drop. Scots, maybe, yeah. I grew up really liking Scotland, although, funny accent, I love the aesthetics, love the character. But then when I started realizing that politics, what they vote for and how they vote, like, what is this nonsense? So you can explain the lack of enthusiasm on the Democrat side. First of all, Kamala is eminently unlikable, dislikable even. Biden, for a lot of non-online people, is eminently likable. We have to remember that. Sure, I believe there was some rigging in favor of Biden back in 2020, the Democratic primaries. But people tend to forget how popular he is amongst the blacks. So once it came to South Carolina and onwards, right, Bernie Sanders did excellently in very white states, but then you go to the minority states, which are supposed to be more progressive, I'm told by leftists, they all went for the moderate. Not to mention that he was Obama's vice president. But as I said, for older people, Biden isn't that dislikable. Creepy Uncle Joe was something the internet was all about. Kamala, on the other hand, absolutely pathetic. She had no time to campaign. People said if she had more time, I think that would have gone poorly for her because her campaign was absolutely pathetic. The interviews were disaster after disaster after disaster. Trump, on the other hand, got into the podcasting, sphere, which is going to mean a lot in the following elections. Not sure if it's going to do a lot for like congressional ones, maybe the Senate, maybe certain important, prominent senators, or some prominent senator who is unpopular and can be challenged. I don't know, maybe someone from South Carolina who is the most heterosexual senator and a war hawk. I'm of course talking about Lindsey Graham. But as far as presidential politics are concerned, it's broken through that podcasts have massive audiences, just absolutely towering over mainstream media. So the internet is taking over slowly but surely. Those mainstream media outlets are still very well funded and are the main source of news for older people who are much more reliable voters than younger people. So yeah, it's a good move. As I said, there was a point at which I thought like the Trump campaign was falling apart, and I think it was after the attempted assassination that he sort of returned to OG Trump and started, bashing everyone and everything, and he became funny again instead of trying to be presidential. And that's where I thought, okay, we're back. And then the debates came. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. So it was back to meme world. And that's where he should, because he's not going to win over rabid leftists or liberals. You're not winning them over. You can win the moderates, and you had a horrible opponent. Another reason why I thought Trump was going to win is because the Democrats were unwilling to sacrifice anyone who would have a good chance in 2028. Your Gavin Newsom's, who again I don't like him. He's done a horrible job. But we have to remember old people are much more consistent in voting, and for them, they see the TV. They don't go watch, meme compilations and etc. Victory for the squirrels. Lindsay Ladybug Graham is disgusting. Oh yeah. By the way, today the big news was Trump has announced that Nikki Haley and Pompeo will not be part of the administration, which is bloody amazing. I'm legitimately thrilled about that, because even in what was it? Was it PBD or Rogan? He said Pompeo is a good guy, right? We could agree on that. No, he's not. He's horrible. And I've seen some other speculations about previously saying that he was sort of a test. So I'm excellent. Should he persevere in this? But what else can be said about things domestically? He gets rid of Blinken. I think he'd bloody catapult him into the Gulf of Mexico. Portal's telling that today Trump's spoken to Vucic on the phone. Oh yeah, this is a big one. A very important property in Belgrade, with the former military HQ in Belgrade, which was destroyed in the bombing of Serbia in 1999, was actually sold to one of Trump's sons. I can't remember whether it was Don Jr. or Eric Trump. So maybe we get some good graces from the Don. It's okay if you're busy, slow boy whiteboard. I'm tired, as I said. You can see by the bags under my eyes. It is not sold. I'm pretty sure it is. But if I'm wrong, so be it. I've been out of the loop. I rented for 99 years now. Right. Sorry. We wouldn't want to be inaccurate now, would we? Baron Trump will become the Baron of Belgrade. The memes are absolutely hilarious. What do the Serbian people think of Donald Trump? I mentioned at the beginning of this Gemistos Piethon that he had the most favorable rating in Serbia of all European countries. It was about 57 or something %. Are there women in Serbia just beardless men? Yeah. Some people thought the dwarves just jumped out of the ground. Nice reference to Dumadoxy. Pozdrav carinije tu bilo dugo. Evo I mene, evo vas rab Turci. Yeah, I've been gone for a while. I'm back. I'm available for like 2 weeks at least. I'll see what I can do in the third week, the one preceding the next batch of exams. How do you tell the difference between Serbian men and women? The men have bigger penises. Are we going to rehash all the jokes about East German athletes from the 80s? Because those were good jokes. Right. Where was I? The economic, I wasn't talking about the economy yet. Right. So we have seen positive responses from Russia. We've seen from the Houthis and Hamas, as I said, openly declaring they're ready for ceasefire negotiations, China sending positive vibes, etc., because they're expecting someone whom one can negotiate with. You can't negotiate with the deep state because they are completely unreliable and cannot be trusted. How many times have we seen the red line is we're sending this type of munition. Give it a month. Okay, we are sending it. It's a red line to send F-16s. Oh wait, we are sending them. Right. So if you keep fumbling again and again and again, you are completely unreliable. And as I said, China and Russia are not imperialistic, especially Russia. China is imperialistic in the economic sense, but they are an economic power. Their history of warfare is pathetic. Internally, I suppose you can give them some credit. Like, they did horribly even against Korea. Historically, they've lost almost every confrontation they've had with Korea. It's a commercial power. It always has been throughout history. And, that's not because they're dumb. It's just not their culture. They're not a martial culture. How many things have they invented, which wouldn't be invented for who knows how long elsewhere? Paper and gunpowder and compasses. They had a big fleet, and these large ships meant for exploration, they would carry, citrus fruit planted inside of pots or whatever, they're like beds within the ships to fight things like scurvy. The medicine is famous for being very advanced very early on. And even today, the medicine is also takes nutrition into account much more so than anyone in the West, because in the West it's like, take these pills and this syrup and go, just don't die for another couple of months and we'll see what happens. Posh, have you ever watched Blackadder? Multiple times, and by multiple I mean about 10. The BBC used Rowan Atkinson's character to depict a son's cowardice towards his role in becoming the proto-Jacobite uprising, the serpent used dialectically. I haven't really thought about it, I just thought it was funny. But I will give it some thought. I see what you mean. Right, so China loses as many people when they fight. It's embarrassing. Yeah. It doesn't want war. It's not good for them. Plus, they're not very stable as is. It's a massive country with massive problems, different demographics that aren't particularly happy to work together, but are being kept in line. China is much more interested in trade and manufacturing. By the way, China isn't a source of cheap labor anymore. Hasn't been for some time now. India is much more that than China, as our Southeast Asian countries. What it has is it's got a lot of concentrated talent. Education is massive. The importance of it is massive. This is a very famous thing. And if you're going to produce something that's of technological value, you're going to find it very easy to establish a professional, competent cadre over in China than elsewhere. That's why they're so attractive to a lot of tech investors. And they can be negotiated with, let's say. Have you not watched any kung fu movies? They can dance around and jump 30 feet into the air. Yeah, Kung Pao. That's the one. What was it? Tongue of Truth. Yeah, turns out Kung Fu doesn't win wars against Japan. Nor Korea. Didn't Sun Tzu lose? Sun Tzu was a tax collector. Off topic, but would you consider doing a stream on Saint Nikolai or Saint Tsar Lazar or another Serbian saint, maybe a stream on Orthodoxy in Serbia. I bet you'd have some unique insights. Maybe we can arrange something. I did a stream on Serbian Orthodoxy with DPH, Church of the Eternal Logos. And a funny thing happened this week. I met with some friends. We got together, had a couple of drinks, and one of them told me that an acquaintance of ours is a subscriber to DPH and J and so on. And then obviously he's going to watch the episode, the stream on Serbian Orthodoxy. He's like, "Is that Posh?" He doesn't know me as Posh. He knows me as Sava. I laughed so hard because imagine I'm from a city. I don't know if you qualify as a city of 25,000 people in Serbia, and imagine being from such a place and you watch an American stream and all of a sudden a guy you know is there speaking with a British accent. Think, oh yeah, I guess I'm going mad. So I don't know if you would like to restate those things, or maybe it would be better to focus on individuals. That's why Russia is sword and China is money. Sort of, yes. Russia has a martial culture and also is very, very, very resource rich, which again, China, not particularly. Been working for the Chinese for years. They are actually quite hell-bent on world domination, much like Muslims. I don't know whom you were talking to, but definitely like, how shall we say, like industrial overtake. They are doing a lot in Africa and parts of South America. They're very ruthless, but not like Muslims. They don't want to control other countries and overtake them and impose Confucianism, whatever. And I believe we can all agree they're not a communist country. That's what they do is basically as close as you had to a successful implementation of fascism. Maximal, nationalism, even some elements of Han ethnic supremacy, cultural chauvinism, complete idea of the state and the government. Private ownership is available, but it has to be in line with national goals and governmental goals. That's how fascism is meant to work. But it's just not socialism. It's just not communism. They've just kept like the symbols. What do I think of political nihilism, doubt in the system? Is it the wrong approach? No, there has to be some legitimacy to the system. You can't keep every single thread, in check. So what the elites do is nudge in a particular direction. They don't orchestrate literally everything. So that's why there are faults in the system which can be exploited. How effectively remains to be seen. This was a pretty unique opportunity to do something very big. So we'll see what happens. But again, one shouldn't be naive. My enthusiasm should not be mistaken for naivete. Nadim Haddad, who has abandoned the icon of Yakub for an icon of the Theotokos, which is much more base but much less funny, sends in $2, thank you, and says, "Hello, Posh, long time no see. You and chat, God bless you too, Nadim Haddad. Great to see you." Suzu pustim kad neko naš postane ovako cijenjen I nade sve pozna. That's a bit of a stretch, but I'm very happy to. He said he's happy when someone, a fellow Serb, gains prominence. I don't see myself as being too prominent, but I'm very happy with the quality of the audience I have. It's fun. I get a lot of jokes for free in the chat. Now, I don't turn them into a special and then pretend I'm a comedian, even though I do play the piano. So that part I won't do. So I'm saying for consumption of jokes. That's actually exactly right. My enthusiasm should not be mistaken for naivete has been my motto for the past few days. Yes, and I'll get into some geopolitical potential problems that one might expect. Did you read manga? No, I haven't read a single manga in my life. I do watch some anime, but I cannot do that. It's about the first emperor of China. Who was the first emperor? Huang Di? Is that it? Legends in the chat. Yeah, that's exactly it. Lol, I was told it was spiritually iffy, so I took it off. As I said, much more based, but much less funny. They are left-right Hegelian alchemists. They list side to side across their interpretation of the Tao, consequentialism, as long as their Babylonian usury game goes unaudited. Sorry, I don't know why I want to say unadulterated. Damn it, I told you I was tired and I can't read fancy words. A shame. It's one of my only redeeming qualities. Oh, goodness. So, where were we? The potential for an outbreak of diplomatic resolutions and stabilization around the world is great, but here are a couple of problems. As I said, I'm most hopeful about Ukraine being handled. Now, Russia is basically almost at the Donetsk River, which they don't actually want to do. Russia has never had the plan of conquering Ukraine. Why would they? If they took over Western Ukraine, what they would find themselves doing is constantly battling guerrillas and massive resistance. They have no use for it. What could happen is turning Ukraine into a rump state. And that's not, again, good for anyone. What they want is a guarantee of neutrality. That was the goal the entire time. Slow but certain provoking continuously and escalation on the part of the West has led to the invasion, the special military operation, if you would, and its goals have been this establishment of neutrality and also greater rights for the autonomous regions of Donbass, the Donetsk Basin. A portmanteau would be right. There's no place called Donbass; it's called Donetsk Basin. And now they're part of Russia. So things have been going worse and worse and worse for the Ukrainians. But now there's a chance. And the military brass in Ukraine is desperate. They need 160,000 men before, what was it, January or February? Where? How are you going to train them? What are you going to do? There was talk of bringing 50, can't remember which exact type of tanks from Australia. And what are you going to do? Who's going to drive them? It's not like going to driving school. It's not bloody GTA. You need months of training for just the crew of a tank to operate individually. And then you would need to teach them, train them to operate within units and follow tactics and strategy. That you wouldn't be able to train them, as I said, individually. You would fall like a third of the, what was it? What would we call it? Like a deadline. It's pathetic, and absolutely murderous and absolutely disastrous. And they're supposed to face, if they even theoretically got to it, They're supposed to face an opponent with superior artillery, about 10-1, in as far as how many shells are going which way in Russia's favor, has complete air superiority, uh, and it is absolutely morally in a far better position. Not morally in the sense of ethics, but morale. That's what I should say. Russians are capable of rotating troops so they keep them rested. So it's just a slaughter of the Ukrainians at this point. And as I said, I'm completely unhappy with that. The fact that there are lunatics like the as of battalions of banderists, they can sod off, but no, Russia's only interested in restoring Soviet borders and always meddle in their neighbor's life and turn them into opushchenie, violated in prison terms. That's nonsense. Obviously, they exert pressure like any country does, like Germany does with every country in the Balkans. Every country that has ability swings things in their favor. But as far as going to war, that is only going to be done in extreme circumstances. I'm not naive again, and think Russia is third Rome coming in to save the day. But the idea, like restoring Soviet borders, which borders? They're going to invade Kazakhstan and like most of Central Asia. They're going to take over the Baltic states. Nonsense. Ask Georgia how recently Putin demanded us in delimitation of Abkhazia and South Ossetia. Yeah, and you should ask Victoria Newland what she thinks of the whole thing. I know in Georgia it's not very stable right now, but America's been doing the same thing they've been doing in Ukraine over in Georgia. There are simply red lines, and if you don't have red lines, you're just going to be put in a worse and worse position. This is what Prussia did to France before the Franco-Prussian War. Basically said, you're either going to be humiliated on the international stage, or you're going to have to be forced to declare a war. And to declare a war they did, and Prussia went in and with superior troop tactics, especially logistics. That what they did was revolutionize the troop movement using railways and crush them. But that is a classic thing. It's one of the oldest ways to do something. You provoke until your opponent into a response, and then blame them for being aggressors. Not like, as far as the Soviet Union, I have no intention of defending the Soviet Union. Even people who go and say, "Oh, do you know the Soviet Union defeated most of the Wehrmacht?" Like, yeah, and the Wehrmacht would be riding on horseback and bicycles if it weren't for the Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact. They're just as imperialist as the West. I promise you I'll look more into it about South Ossetia and things, but my recollection of the thing, of the events over there is different. But I'm not going to go off on things I've read about years ago and insult your intelligence. By coming into it by memory. Your mama's so fat, she's one of the few people who can die from COVID. Right, back to American politics. Sorry. I just want to address something in the chat. I started by talking about the Ukraine thing. So there is a chance to negotiate. We will see what comes of that. I'm expecting stability because Europe is not doing well. Germany's government actually is pretty much collapsed, the one of Scholz. Um, which goes to show you elect the Green Party and they have to be the party of war. And that's what happens with occupied nations. But it's not going to be very fun to have Germany collapse. It's not going to be fun for anyone. So they will have to do something to stop it. The Democrats have a vested interest in keeping things going until after the inauguration, which I believe is on the 23rd of January, and then have the thing, have the negotiations done after that, because then they would have the talking point. Oh, there you go, Putin's puppet Trump is surrendering Ukraine over to him. They did the same trick the West did with Kosovo, because if the West can do it, we can do it too. Now they have secular theaters in Bichvinta, cathedral, and pagans growing in South Ossetia. As I said, I'll reread it and get back to you. Make Leningrad Königsberg again, right? And then Kant will reincarnate. Or at least he would, but he can't. Canada doesn't meet the 2% of GDP for NATO and loses America's protection. What are the odds, in your opinion, of Russia making a move on Canada? Nonsense. Again, Russia has plenty of natural resources to use themselves, to start exploiting. That's its greatest strength, natural resources, raw resources. And why would they invade Canada? What do they gain? More oil? The one coming from Russia is particularly good. It needs a lot less, processing than things even you get from like Saudi Arabia and stuff. Why would they do that? People think in terms of almost video games. Like you go over, you send troops, and now you've taken over this territory, and now it's yours, and it pays you, like a total war game. No, they don't need it, and why would it? By the way, Canada's biggest problems are in terms of demographics and the demographic shifts that have been happening. A large influx of like Sikhs and stuff, forcing the Canadian government to be antagonistic towards India, and they're getting a lot of problems. But being conquered by Russia isn't one of them. Do you think the EU will try to continue war in Ukraine? No. There's not a chance. Like, Germany has stopped delivering things to the only country desperate about maintaining the war in Ukraine in Europe is basically the United Kingdom, because they're going to all look absolutely pathetic should it end. Right? Russia has land, don't have the people. Exactly. So they're going to sacrifice people to get more land, even though they have a lot more in terms of land than people to exploit it properly. Teaming up with China could influence the decision to have a foothold above America. No, it wouldn't. America wouldn't just sit still, even if it wasn't part of NATO. Are you saying America wouldn't act against the international law or treaties? America's the hegemon. They act in their own interest, and unfortunately, as less and less that, but interest of their oligarchy. And that's why you have the demoralization of the military, of the populace joining the military. So no, they get nothing. Things are now done by rockets. That's what's going to happen. It's not going to be like Red Alert 2, and you get massive, tank invasion of California or something. You get nothing for it. You can't approach anyone. America, only with ballistic missiles can it be influenced. Where will the military-industrial complex pivot under Trump? Surely there's no thirst among Americans for any new military incursions. We'll get to potentially things blowing up in the Middle East. But as far as the Ukraine war is concerned, I think that's going to come to a close. I hope and pray as soon as possible. And then as far as China is concerned, it is very, very, very interested in Iran not closing, Hormuz, because they are highly reliant on it for especially fuel. So they're invested in it. Russia is invested in Iran not being destroyed. But then we come to the topic of Israel. So for those of you who don't follow these events, recently Netanyahu has fired Yoav Gallant, the Secretary of Defense, the leader of the IDF, basically. And that's not something you want to do in a war where you're already not doing well and have gained nothing but condemnation across the world and bombing mostly civilians. I know they claim they've been destroying mostly. There are analyses that say that it's not as high of a proportion. I doubt both sides. But what we know is that a lot of civilians are just being massacred because the militants are going to stay inside fortified, bunkers and tunnels and stuff. It's a war on basically two fronts, unless you want to, take into account like the Houthis and Syria, Iran, but basically on two active fronts they're engaged with directly on the ground. Not doing well on either because they have no clear strategy, which was Gallant's problem. And I've mentioned this for months now. The officers of the IDF were very, very unhappy with Netanyahu because they haven't got a clear goal. They're basically like, what do you want us to do? Their only orders are apparently go and destroy Hamas and Hezbollah. Well, that's great. Thank you. Go do good thing is what they were told. And an additional thing is there's a substantial part of the population of the ultra-Orthodox Jews who have a religious exemption from joining the IDF, from serving in the IDF. But they are extremely war-thirsty. So you've got these people exempt from service, but very war-thirsty. I know Americans wouldn't know anything about such, individuals. One that was allegedly threatened with a firing squad in the last 2 weeks. Am I missing something? Including my Palestinian Christian friends. Very good people. My best friend too. Yeah, and it's not like the Muslims were treating them well, but it's still better than being treated with rocket fire. So, God help them. Again, I hope that closes off too, sooner rather than later. It's not going to be finished, by the way. It's a pipe dream that they're going to get rid of Hamas, let alone Hezbollah. Who's a typical Bulgarian? Damn it, I missed some Bulgarian slander, and I find myself personally disappointed in myself. I own 2 Accords, very reliable. Okay. Where were we? Yes. So they're not doing well militarily, and Gallant gets angry that he's been given no clear orders and is being, from behind back in Israel. He's being shouted at by people exempt from serving. So he wanted that exemption to be removed, which would destroy Netanyahu's coalition. So he has no choice but to do something, and he fires his government collapses, or he fires his Secretary of Defense, who then goes on to say he wants an investigation into what happened on October 7th. Who was responsible for such a massive failure? So that's not good. And then I've also heard, I haven't really looked into this properly, because I had to, as I said, focus on my exams. He's apparently getting into tension with the leadership of Mossad and Shin Bet. So, we all know who Mossad is. They're basically the CIA of Israel, and Shin Bet is the FBI of Israel. So speculation that he was going to fire the leaders of those, I don't know what he's asking for, but he's basically very, very desperate. He's not popular in Israel. He was almost overthrown before the war started, which I'm going to get, I think personally, was part of, as Nicodemus Serpico says, the Pearl Harboriness of October 7th. Yeah, let me get a swig of this. Jester's privilege, jumping in just to like the stream, much appreciated. I remember Shin Bet betrays you in Splinter Cell Pandora tomorrow, and for some reason that game is not available for purchase. Well, I wonder why. But Iran has also been making all types of noise as potential retaliation. I hope, personally, and it's not an uninformed hope, it's a desperate one, threatening all sorts of military retaliation for the Israeli airstrike on their air defense systems. I truly hope that's a bargaining chip. And now things can settle in. There's no saving Netanyahu. There's also a problem, and Trump is a man of personal grudges. When he expected support from Netanyahu about the election in 2020, he did not receive it. So, we'll see what happens. I think there's a good chance for it to be solved, but my expectations on the election was 70-30 for Trump. As far as this thing is concerned, it's like 60-40, that it will be resolved. And because I think Netanyahu is in too poor of a position. He cannot defeat Hamas, let alone Hezbollah. They're entrenched. You can't just bomb entrenched positions and go off shooting civilian areas or assassinating leaders. That doesn't work. It's not like, oh, we've captured the king, now you have to surrender. It's not that era anymore. We're in a much colder era as far as such connections are concerned between peoples. So there is a chance that it will be resolved. And I will repeat, Hamas and Houthis calling for ceasefire with the approaching new leadership in the United States. What else can I say? As I said, Mike Pompeo is out, allegedly. Nikki Haley is out, allegedly. There's a standing idea that $100 million was donated by widow Adelson to the Trump campaign, and so he owes her a favor. The problem is, I don't know whether he's going to pay that favor back, considering it's his second and last term. And he has much more to gain by ignoring it. So we'll see. Is Israel beholden to money and hegemon more than religious ideology? Most of Israel is atheistic. Like the Jews in Israel are atheistic. How does one pass Israel's power structure from the B'nai B'rith and Dutch British India's trading company, Rothschild backers? You have a religious element that is very aggressive, very war hungry. People like Ben Gvir and his paramilitaries roaming around, the settlements and stuff. And they are part of the coalition. Like Likud itself, Netanyahu's party, is pretty nationalistic, but not all that religious. But then you have people even more, unhinged, that want greater Israel and stuff. It's pointless. I won't repeat everything I said in my geopolitics stream, because it's it gets a bit repetitive and dull. But Israel does not have the manpower. It does not have natural resources. It has a lot of things going for them, like the technology sector. Military technology is excellent. Their aviation is good. Their intelligence agencies are very good. So they have their strengths, but not strengths that lend themselves to waging long campaigns. So, what will President Trump do about the Albanian problem? If he deals specifically with Dumadoxy, that's good enough for me. The Rothschilds work for the Vatican. I'm not sure about that. Who works for who there? Where's the Department of Crispy Imprisonment? Your crispy synapse, I completely forgot. I barely got used to Johnson, and now you do this to me. I feel personally slighted. So, what else can I say? It's fun seeing the rhetoric of like the leadership in France, Britain, by the way. If there's anyone, I'd rather be a child in Gaza than a senior civil servant in the UK government. Because that cannot be a good position to be in right now. So you've got the Labour Party, the Foreign Secretary, called Trump a literal fascist and yada, yada, yada. He would protest him, he would do this and that back when they were the opposition. And we're talking about, of course, but the brilliance of the one, the only David Lammy, who's just an idiot. He goes over, talking about the war in Ukraine to Russia and talks about, I stand here as a black man. And he was sitting to add to the rhetorical power. So he's explaining something to Russia as a black man. Do you not expand, your list of references? Just a complete Burke, and I don't know what they're going to do. Starmer himself was very anti-Trump, and he's unpopular amongst his own people. And now the special relationship is taken over by someone who he himself, his entire party, because they were in the opposition and were, I don't know, talking about how Boris Johnson was a disgrace because Trump endorsed him or something like that. So if Trump thinks you're good, then that shows you're not fit to be prime minister. Okay, so if Trump endorses you, you're not fit. And if he's against you, now you have basically your suzerain is now going to be against you. So yeah, the civil service must be in absolute disarray because everything has gone wrong. I have a friend who served in IDF and converted to Orthodox, and he says that Israel is a failed state and may not exist soon due to how people are divided. Yes, they were internally divided, the Jews themselves, so not just the non-Jewish part of the population. And there's about, if I remember correctly, about 1.8 million Arabs, but about 8 million Jews. And before the war started, there was almost a complete collapse of the religious and nationalist sector versus the progressive sector. Like what you would think of as a secular Jew in America, no, we need more gay pride parades. So that's why I don't overstretch my expectations of how much influence Israel has, because they're not really a stable country. They have a lot of influence in APAC and stuff, but as a geopolitical entity, not very stable, because they have to have continuous maintenance of both victim narrative and glorious narrative. They're invincible and they're poor and defenseless, and you can't maintain that rhetorically. So yeah, but again, the majority of the population does support the wars. They just don't like Netanyahu. Going back to Apple next millennium. Right. I got the perfect dose of posh, a bit more on the drunk scale. I am now at the good stage. 10 minutes, I'll be full on drunk. That's a good point to be at. I'm only on my first beer, so I'm not even tipsy. Johnson was sent to a kibbutz as a young Tory. Stalin, the Soviet Union, interesting beginnings. Trust me, with the British establishment, they had previous beginnings. The Jews splitting into tribes, trying to restore the tribes destroyed with the fall of the Northern Kingdom. Johnson is Turkish, crypto Jew, Dolme, Sabati and Frank's family. Calm down, Candace Owens. He's a lot of things. Like, he's a complete mutt. So I don't know how many. Like, have you seen him like stand with like Azavites? I've even seen. I didn't look into this picture of him like doing the Roman salute with them, but he stands like with classic Nazi, regalia. So I wouldn't put too much trust in him having any loyalty to anyone. Is there a chance that the US goes into civil war? No. There are a lot of US YouTubers that are putting this out as a possibility. Well, they would put it out because it's great bait content. Secondly, I mentioned very early on, hysteria is much lower than it was the first time Trump was elected. And the other thing I said, they need to remoralize. They need it. I know there's been talk of we'll grant path to citizenship to illegals if they serve in the army. Very Roman of them. But the illegals don't want to serve in the army. They want to go and earn a bunch of money, which is going to be quite a bit more back in their home country, and probably sod off. But we'll see what happens then. There's no civil war. People need to understand civil wars, especially nowadays, don't start again unless there's massive elite support for it, domestic or foreign elites. That goes for the American one as well. But even then, you had the South, the Southern elites were supporting it. The Northern elites weren't. You don't have that split in the elites that would lead to some type of orchestrated actual warfare. You can't. First of all, it's got a singular army. I suppose Like the governors go in and engage like the state militia. Not a chance. Not a chance. But as I said, it's Tim Pool is the lord and master of all civil war calls. So no, it's just not happening. My favorite YouTube channel, David Packman. God, the physiognomy on that man. We have seen a decrease in thousands of subscribers. Could this be? Losing the AstroTurf subscribers. It's hilarious. Also, not to mention, I'm supposed to keep watching you and listening to you after you were saying it's a clear win for Kamala and she gets trounced. Right. Anybody who identifies as a Jew should be able to state what it means to them objectively. You've had polling on it. Most of them actually associated with the Holocaust. I don't know what to do with that. Is the bloodline of Shem just a story to them if they're atheists, or is it Tikkun Olam, motif, Neoplatonism? A lot of it is just inertia. I'm Jewish because I'm Jewish. They don't go too much into it, like most people, basically. But they also have a massive victim narrative, which is the fuel for their loyalty to their people. And that's not going to hold forever, because ultimately you have to do something in the affirmative, not just we're victims, and that's where all problems start for any revolutionary movement, and in this case for how shall we say, an ethnic identity. Oligarchs, not to mention what they did with working with Azerbaijan to the Armenians. So, speaking of people who have been through a lot, oligarchs can only have loyalty to themselves and don't care about any of the actual people living in the nations they puppet, such as Israel. Yeah, that's why they are more than happy to shift demographics. So to themselves as a class, but even then you have splits. Again, it's not a secret cabal, but you have power centers which exert influence and push things in certain directions. And they have a unified, more or less unified, vague notion of where things should be headed. But it's not all clear cut. Let's not be trutherish to the point of ignoring reality and practicability, and everything is revelation of the method, and whatever you want to do, you can attribute to some esoteric practice, and then when it turns out you're wrong, that proves I was even more right than I originally anticipated. I'm sick of Tim Pool's incessant yapping about civil war. Yeah, I was sick of it the first time he mentioned it. It's so completely unrealistic. Like, progressives are going to start buying weapons and all of those things like Antifa and BLM. That's all intelligence agencies. They do get like recruits from the populace, but they're led. Things aren't that organic. Do people think Kamala Harris helped bail out BLM activists who were arrested because she's some progressive or a communist? No. Sam Cedar is great at being awful. Got him. He tried to sell his book the other day after getting everything wrong. Yeah. Wait, who? Tim Pool? I don't know. I basically watch Tim Pool when one of my friends is on. Or like a comedian I like. Anti-Semite Jew by Sartre says something interesting about what it means to be a Jew. Oh, yeah. let's not get all Sartre. Cedar needs a kick in the cunt. Good old fashioned. Very Irish prescriptions for solving problems. I see so many online play the blame game of where ethnic superiority. Dravidians blame Brahmins, many blame Caucasians, Assyrians, bloodline of David, some blame Talmudic Jews, and others. Yeah, because it's much more simple than studying things. It's much more simple than, what Jay does, which is read a lot of the books of the elites. Dravidians. So they want to have it simple. I talk about this quite a bit. One of the biggest, most attractive aspects of trutherism is its simplicity, and then almost a very vague, sloganeering, very universally applicable, epistemology that can't go wrong, because it going wrong proves you right even more. So yeah. Would you debate Adam Green again? Sure. I have no problem with that. I'm quite upset that I saw this on Twitter, he had a daughter and named her Freya. Just don't name your daughter after a sex goddess. Posh, what do you think are the chances that Orange Man will extend his anti-transgender gender agenda to go after trans career people like me who identify with a profession that we don't have? Trans careerism is coming to an end. We're going to stop it. It is going to be great. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be better than anything you've ever seen. Yeah, that agenda has really hit a wall, hasn't it? Yes, this is one thing I should mention about the exit polling. So Gen Z and Gen X were for Trump. Millennials and boomers were for Kamala. So all of that goes to show that it's not merely the case that the youth are always going to be more left wing or more progressive or something. That's not how things work. The youth tends to be rebellious. I went through a rebellious phase. I started and finished it earlier than most, but I still had it. I wouldn't have been able to vote by the time I stopped my socialist phase, which was 15. But, if it came later on, it's understandable. It's a very attractive message. We need to stop all these capitalist, rapacious oligarchy, etc., because you're going to be comparing, and a lot of people never grow out of this part of it, comparing my ideas in theory and opposing ideas in practice. Which I suppose is the only thing you can do if you're a libertarian, Casimir. But as far as, being young and revolutionary, that tends to be a trend. And you read, ancient Greek texts, ancient Assyrian, texts, etc. They all are like, oh, the bloody youth are annoying and rebellious, right? So that's not going to turn out that way, because they have begun to be seen as the establishment, as the established way of thinking, that which is pushed in academia, which is pushed in media, pushed by the rich and privileged. And young people aren't particularly fond of it. Add to that complete incompetence on the economy, the border, etc., and there you go. So, good job, Gen Z. I'm still technically a millennial, but I identify as Gen Z. so we may suffer, similar fates. Dr. Crispy. Chris Lestrange Says, evening, Posh and chat. Evening to you. Bonsoir, I suppose, because French and stuff. I want to see more Posh Casimir exchanges. I've contacted Andrew. I don't know if something will come out. He says he would be interested in arranging something. So let's hope it happens. I can't do it when Jim Bob is also there because Jim Bob is a very fiery individual. Can't really resist getting into the fray. And I take a far more long-winded approach when making my points, which sometimes doesn't go in my favor. Granted, that's a given. But that's why neither of us could pull it in a certain direction of argumentation, which is why I would like for it to be a one-on-one debate. Maybe he would jump on this channel or something. We will see. I've never spoken to him outside of, I don't think at least. Yeah, I haven't. Outside of like Jim Bob's chat and on stream. Porsche versus Kaz debate where each opening statement is 1.5 hours. The first series of Blackadder really isn't that good. Ironic that we go back to Blackadder season. It's series 1, Lee Boy. Let's be properly British about this. Edmund doubles down on his guilt via cowardice, rejects atonement, which begets generations of self-hating entitlement. Yeah, they also have that part where he becomes like the Archbishop of Canterbury. Does he become Archbishop of Canterbury? Or something, but then Baldric and oh dear. I want to say Captain Darling. I know it's not the case, but they become his helpers and they start fighting with the Templars and stuff. I'm South African, my good sirs. I'll annoy Casimir to reach out to you. If he should, I'd be happy to engage. But let's see if we can get something on the Crucible to have it moderated. So no one gets. Although he's pretty tame, he responds very aggressively to someone like Jim Bob, who's more aggressive himself. Sort of like when I debated Kale. He's basically constantly coked out, but when he talked to me, he is more reflective of the other person. So we could do it one-on-one just here, just have a discussion, but we'll see. I'm part end. The last march. Okay, that sounded way more dark than I wanted it to. The last march. No, I can't do it. He was voiced by the Gimli actor. I found that surprising. I'm much better at doing orc impressions, so sorry about that. Right, but back to exit polling, dear Lord. Edmund cannot live with his generational guilt even during the French Revolution. He dislikes the overzealous Jacobins, Montanists, or Montagnets. He is unable to escape his conscience. That seems a bit more of a stretch. He's like a cynical middle-class git who tries to manipulate everyone and ends up sucking. So that's a bit more esoteric than I would read it. Lee Boy 2K1. But I'll have to rethink it. I've never really gone into it. I don't consume a lot of media, so I'd have to rewatch it with like a J type of eye. And I mean J Dye, not the good J. But yeah, I do remember Yes Minister, talking about the Church of England, how the modernist was basically, well, that's what we say when we want to allow an atheist to take the position. Prime Minister. Blacobite rebellion in plain sight. Yeah, but that can just be wordplay. Let's not get too truthery, and I have to go back to exit polling. So the racial makeup. So white women are not to be made fun of anymore. It's illegal. Only respect for white women in this chat, please. But obviously, the huge outlier is a majority of Latino men and almost, I believe, 40% of Latino women or Latinas voted for Trump. And it seems to me, I saw this segment reviewed by quite a few commentators. Morning Joe, who's married to a woman called Mika Brzezinski. No reason whatsoever. Not a very important surname, Brzezinski. And he was talking to Al Sharpton, and I don't know if it's the start of a pivot towards realizing the reality that it's not you have white people and then you have non-white people. I mean, that's one way of categorizing it. You can categorize it as Asian people and non-Asian people, African people and non-African people, the French and actual people. So it turns out other people don't like themselves or like each other for merely not being white, and that you have a lot of interethnic hatred and animosity amongst different groups of Latinos. The Mexicans and Puerto Ricans and Guatemalans and Colombians and Venezuelans, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, they don't go and hug each other like, hey, you're my Latino brother. Like, yeah, that's not happening. They dislike each other quite a bit. I suppose if you go to America and, irrespective of your heritage, you become middle class. I say irrespective of your heritage because your heritage is then middle class, and you're going to think about ooga booga, academic theories, and that's why you're going to start thinking Latino is an actual, a proper, how shall we say, like a proper demographic and not just descriptive, but can be proscriptive. Turns out, no, as much as white isn't very proscriptive either, more proscriptive than Latino. Black is quite proscriptive, but still not a solid enough demographic. But then again, if we talk about Father Turbo Quayle said African American is an adequate term because there's a difference between being someone who's like the descendant of slaves and someone who is like second or third generation immigrant from Nigeria or Ghana or wherever. Because those people who immigrate from Africa, unless we talk about them going through an open border, like they tend to be like upper class people, like your doctors and your engineers and stuff, where they go to America and earn like 1,000 times more than they would back home. And that's why you have like Nigerians or someone demographically on average out earning whites. Why? Because you get 10 engineers from Nigeria, they're going to earn more than an entire native demographic, which spans the entire spectrum of earning potential. So that's why that could be said, you have immigrants from Africa and then people who were there generationally. And that's not enough. That's not enough to bind people. Also, there's animosity between African Americans and African blacks. Famously, Like, and apparently, maybe the left is going to wake up to this, but I don't think they will, because it's a very inconvenient thing to wake up to, because now things become a lot more complicated than whitey bad. Posh reminds me of Misha Mansour. Maybe he's actually Indian. That's what we're going to do today. Insult each other. You're a UK comedy nerd. I wouldn't call myself that. I do like some BBC comedies, like Yes Minister, Blackadder, and some others, but I wouldn't call myself a comedy nerd. But Monty Python and stuff. Hispanics show the Democrats they don't know or understand Latin culture. We have serious dislikes with each other and are about class more than race and ethnicity. Yeah, like that's how it is in Europe with whites, or with Asians in Asia, or with Africans in Africa. In Africa, they have like tribal hatred. In North Africa as well, which was pretty big thing for Libya. It had a very, very strong tribal division. So the moment you lose the strongman leader, there goes, the seams burst. So I'm not saying that this is some grand revelation or something specific to Latinos. It's the most common thing in the world. In fact, only when countries become rich enough do they start, getting like, oh, we don't want to go with this primitive thing. Or you get so rich that you start only caring about bloodlines, I suppose. Oh, sorry, Crispy. I thought you read. I read myself into your conversation. Here we hate people from the next village. Yeah. Oh, you're from this part of Dublin, where I'm from this other one. I'll never forgive you. Oh, by the way, Dr. Crispy, Baron Strawberry has been educating me in proper intra-islandian divisions and hatreds and accents. So I'm very grateful to him for that. So also turns out blacks and Latinos don't like each other on the basis of not being white. That's a huge thing. I believe Native Americans went 60-something% for Trump. Now that I don't think anyone knows what to do with that statistic. Not the right, not the left, not the center. It's just what happened. Yeah, it's quite a cartoonish Irish accent. What do you do with that? No one knows how to even insult them, like except the one I mentioned, like Uncle Tomahawk, black Hebrew Israelites insulting the Native Americans. But I'm talking about the commentariat class. Like, sure, you have like fire, water, ha ha ha, scalping, ha ha ha. But what do you do? Oh, hey, Genghis Khan, long time no see. There's a lot of hate in diverse communities. Yes, because they're human. It's not a demographical thing or specific to any particular demographic. It's a very human thing. There's a terrible comedy with John Cleese. He must be embarrassed to be on that. It's called Hold the Sunset. I've never even heard of that. I don't particularly like Fawlty Towers. I'm sure you get a couple of good jokes in, but meh. It almost becomes it's something like between British and American humor, and it just doesn't work in either. Thanks for keeping me entertained. You're very welcome, Slow Boy Whiteboard. So yeah. What can I say? It's very fun. There is hope to be had now. I don't know what would have happened had she won. But don't be naive. Don't fall into naivete because it's a very bad place to be. Remember that politics is a very dirty game, and that there's the old, if the people need a hero, we will provide them with one. But there are too many factors going in here to suggest that they didn't want him there, but ended up having him there. Blue Skittel, who emphasizes my pronunciation of Skittel, sends in $5. Thank you so much, Blue Skittel. I will continue to pronounce it that way. John Cleese flogging a dead parrot. Yeah, he became far too arrogant. Like, he was always arrogant. And by the way, for Monty Python, they weren't really a tight-knit group. It was like Cambridge versus Oxford. That's one division they had. But like Cleese was more with Chapman, and then Terry Jones was more with Idle and. Oh goodness, why do I always find it difficult to remember his name? Palin. And you can see it, like the Cleese and Terry Jones were like completely different people, not just in size, but in like approach and like sense of humor. I do suggest people check out on YouTube. I think I already did before, like Terry Jones's Medieval Lives. It's actually a pretty fun thing to look at. I think Terry Gilliam was in on the animations. British comedy still exists in our provincial banter. The woke BBC bilge does not represent the masses. Well, that's a given. I wouldn't even. It would be an insult to even consider it. So since I've been talking a lot with Baron Strawberry about Irish things, so he mentions Cork as this region that's rather peculiar, and has a peculiar mindset. And he sends me this comedian who does like a Cork accent. And what I'm astounded by, especially I've seen this with Irish comedians, the British ones tend to do it too, like a lot more verbosity in a lot more poetic in the way they talk, as compared to American comedy, which has been devolving into basically fucking shit. I find some things on Kill Tony funny, and by some things I think Shane Gillis, but too cross. That's the American way. The Americans are far more red-blooded than Europeans, far more rowdy. But let me tell you, something like, imagine if the president of Ireland was from Cork, and he said, what was it? The mortifying shame of it. Like the mortifying shame of it. I love that phrase. Did Baron Strawberry invite you to the farm to pick berries next summer? He has been dropping hints. It will actually be good for your back, but I have a back problem. Let's make it preventative. Doesn't work if you ask for a monetary compensation. Did you watch Clarkson's Farm? Not yet. Not yet. I also refuse to watch the last episode of Grand Tour, because if I don't watch it, it isn't over. That's how time works. Can we just appreciate how funny it was that Clarkson had opened the pub and basically said people banned from the pub: Keir Starmer, James May. It's surprising. I saw some interview about electric cars featuring James May and Richard Hammond, and it's surprising, just how cerebral the two are. I mean, it's also surprising with Clarkson, but he's like buffoonish in general. Quite an intelligent man, actually, and quite eloquent. But when they start talking about technology and stuff, they know what they're talking about. It wasn't just you bring in experts who write your scripts and then you just read it off and practice pronouncing technical terms. Like the stream and support Posh Redneck with 400 euros. Absolutely. Now that Trump has won, that's like chump change. More like Trump change. A great team, yeah. The greatest trio on television. They should end it. Someone is going to get seriously hurt there. Sure, a lot of it is, scripted and stuff, obviously, but they're very old men right now, and they don't want to get crippled, or even killed for the shenanigans. And if it's just them talking, that's funny enough, but they should retire. It's good and proper, and they have their own projects. James May he did that like Bunker Kitchen. He did the Our Man in This Country. Clarkson does the Clarkson Farm, and so on. Angel Berber. How are you a Latino when you're a Berber? You thought I wouldn't notice? The secret, something you hid in plain sight by putting it in your name. For $5, thank you very much. Good to see you back on Posh. Look forward to another debate you may have on the Crucible. I do too. I hope it's fun. And whether it be religious or political in nature, I do hope to have more debates. Randy West is late, dang it. Well, it's just a giant party now, Randy West. Keenan, we have still, maybe you have corrected me and said how it should be, but it says my tithe. Thank you, Keenan. Or Canaan. I'd rather call you Keenan because Canaan is the land of Canaanites, and I'd rather not associate you with Canaanites. Blackadder was peak TV comedy. The first series was lost on many a viewer as its historical verbosity ensemble cast was a lot to unpack back then. I much prefer the comedic angle of the later series, I have to say. Very, very infantile in the first one. Funny, but infantile. Okay, Keenan. Good. We don't have to associate you with Baal worship. Oh, Arab and Hispanic. You must be the most quiet person for miles. Yes. Casual Balkan racism. Nice. I just made it key nam when I started making bears. Making bears? I have failed you all to the crystals. Yeah, that's another good meme. Oh, I love the meme of based Biden. With that Linkin Park song. What I've done. Oh, Kamala, and one last thing. Make America great again. I should never again try to do a Biden impression. That became very apparent to me. I'm in a good mood, so I'll open another beer. Be right back with you. Christ almighty. We can go for another half hour or so. Christ, these cables are trying to murder me. Right. Randy Westwell, this is for you, Randy. This is just so you don't feel left out. Do you lads have any light topic in mind? I'd rather not get into anything serious right now. As I said, I'm tired. I have to get to some exchange on Twitter. Two people arguing, like one some type of dispensationalist and the other some type of racialist who's against Christianity, saying you can't be Christian unless you're an ethnic Jew. And I'm not doing it today. I'm getting into it tomorrow. Maybe I do a stream on it, or at least part of a stream. Let you lot know how that went. Singers green sleeves in Serbian. So green sleeves. I think I know how to play green sleeves. Let me try if I can remember it. Something like that. No. I'll have to get back to pretty iconic melody. I think someone's put words to it. I believe Lorena McKennett sings it with lyrics. By the way, one of my favorite musicians, Lorena McKennett. So you can check out both her covers of traditional songs, and she has authored a couple. Highly recommended. Yeah, genuine folk music. I just had a bloody topic in mind, and it eludes me. We need medieval times. Barbarian times call for medieval measures. How warm is it, that beer? It's not warm at all. It's cold enough that it's easier to keep it on the balcony than it is to keep it in a fridge. So it's pretty cold, which I'm happy with. I can't drink non-cold beer. Some people can do it. I'm like, I'd rather spill it by that point if it gets too warm. Right, King Henry VIII, but I'm telling you, someone did put lyrics to it. I'm not sure who, and not sure when. The balcony beer, the good BB. there's two very bad BBs out there. One, granted, significantly worse, and is currently at odds with his former Secretary of Defense and his intelligence agencies. How to get people to stop drinking your beers is to drink only warm beer. But what's this Pavlovian conditioning you're trying to impose upon us? What is your favorite movie and why? Well, I can tell you my least favorite word in the English language is movie. These are my pet peeves. I hate it with a passion. But Lord of the Rings, definitely. Like it's just glorious, and I do not joke around when I say that film probably kept what little civilization has survived the sexual revolution and stuff for 20 years. I know plenty of women, girls, whatever, my age, who are absolutely enamored with it. Even though you can say, oh, but there's only Arwen and Eowyn and Galadriel, and that's basically it for female characters in the films. But you know, it doesn't matter. It's such a deep thing. It's replete with theology. It's replete with ethical considerations. It's a fun story, and talks a lot about, there's falling and getting back up, and not in a way you would see in Dragon Ball, where you just get beaten up by someone stronger than you, go after you train, and then you come back and now you can beat him up. So no, not in that sense. In a proper moral sense, Boromir, obviously, and if you then go into the books, a lot of other things. Nancy Pelosi said he did. What did he do? Was Biden sabotaging Kabbalah? Yeah, because the Biden camp was very, very angry with the fact that they were pushed out by the likes of Nancy Pelosi. Women don't need female characters to relate to. They need good-looking men to watch run around. Yeah, especially a young Orlando Bloom. But also, I mean, what was his name? Viggo Mortensen. And let's not forget that film is the cause of me speaking with a British accent, thanks to Christopher Lee, who wasn't a particularly good actor. He was just, the man was pure charisma. He was like 6'5", had the voice, had the presence. So he didn't need to have good acting skills to be completely outshine basically anyone else. I can talk about Lord of the Rings all you want. We need 4 more years of Joe Biden. Dragon Ball blasphemy. Let me go to a side tangent. One of my favorite franchises, as far as sci-fi and epic fantasy are concerned, is Warhammer 40k. Just 40k. Never got into the medievally one. But it has a similar problem to Dragon Ball, where everything just keeps getting hype. So you start with Goku and Krillin. They go to the island. They train with oh Christ, I don't know what it's called. What was the old man who teaches Kamehameha? Which was the name of a Hawaiian king, by the way. To them, Roshi, yes, Master Roshi. I literally know him in Serbian because I watched it, dubbed in Serbian when I was a boy. And he's called Kornjacin Vrach, which basically means the turtle warlock. So I can't remember it in English. But then they fight each other. Then they fight this one. There you get Tao Pai Pai, and Piccolo and Tenshin Han. Was that the guy with 3 eyes? Yes, the Turtle Hermit. That was the what they were going for in our translation. But okay, that's great. It's a very fun story. It has emotional moments. It has build up. It's a children's story, by the way. It's not. Wouldn't ever compare it to Warhammer or Lord of the Rings. But there comes a point, and I didn't watch things like later on, where you get Birusama, right? The hairless cat guy. And I saw some promo for it or whatever, where he's like sitting at a table and he's being served food and everyone's very, nervous and afraid of him. And he's like trying the food and he squints his eyes in disagreeableness towards what has been served. And then he just taps his finger on the table and it zooms out and the entire half of the planet blows up, like the other half of the planet blows up. Like, really? This is what we're going to do? And then they're supposed to fight, like properly fight, with Goku and the lads. And like, okay, so a finger tap blows up half the planet, but then a full punch does nothing. It's just the regular one, but the way they describe it is how long ago, in comparison to that fight, were they already invisible when they fought? You just had like the little lines. Okay, so you're overhyping it to the point that it makes literally no sense, and I lose complete interest. And then, of course, at the end of it, I believe I saw this, like the guy who's like the steward of Beerus. He's like, oh, he's even more powerful. Like, okay, I see where this is going. You're just opening up further pathways for things to go. So that's what I'm so. No, Posh, you're incorrect. Dragon Ball Z was much more, much deeper than you're strawmanning it. I'm not commenting on the. I'm not commenting on it in the sense of, the how should we say, like, what is going on, but like the overhype is just loses me at some point. Still haven't reached that point with Warhammer 40k, but let's not kid ourselves. Like, everything is constantly hyped. Oh, we've got the Space Marines, and we've got the lasers, and the lasers, the bolters, and that bolter is like basically a portable rocket launcher, and it's cased in this sort of thing, and it can blow up, a mountain, and then, but then, he gets killed by like an orc. Like, oh yeah, great. Because you risk overpowering them, and then you get to the Primarchs, and and all the Custodes, etc. in the Imperium, but then you get the Necrons. They use weapons, those Gorse weapons that destroy things on a molecular level. The Melter rifle, etc. So, at some point you're like, okay, come on, you're now just writing things for the sake of someone powerful new getting in, but then someone, the Black Crusaders, jump in and kill them, and it annoys me. It's over 9,000, yeah. From the moment I understood the weakness of my flesh, it disgusted me. But again, I really like the underlying themes of Warhammer 40k. Someone in my very chat called it like some atheist fantasy. Yeah, but isn't it funny how the atheist fantasy creates all sorts of religions, and basically the only way humanity is surviving is that they're all mad fanatics, and not just in some sense of being tricked into it. No, if they go on to like worship chaos deities, that destroys entire planet systems. I get it. You're talking about the limits of how far you can suspend your belief. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you can't start a story where a guy taps his finger on a table and blows up half of the planet, but then he's supposed to have an actual fight on a planet, and that's not it. It doesn't do anything. It's just, you make a regular crater when you crash. But Reynolds films, I don't know any. Yeah, the iron is rich, and that's why I like it. I think a lot of the lore is developed organically, the way good writing is done. You write, and then you take a path, and then you don't start and then have a foregone conclusion, and then you just fill in the gaps. That's not good writing. You can have some vague conclusion, like what you want to have as an arc, but then you really need to ask yourselves when you're writing questions like, what would happen here, realistically speaking, within the parameters of the of world generation. So I think they did a lot of that, but that's about it. That's my critique. Not to mention like whatever they're doing with female custodies and stuff. Like, gosh, why does everyone want to be the ultra religious space Nazis, and they're progressive? The emperor was actually a woman the entire time. He was just too scared of whatever to say it. Chaos are the good guys. You world eater, treasonous scum, should keep your mouth shut. Unlike Angron, who can't keep his mouth shut because he's in constant pain. I don't watch westerns. I did watch some as a boy. Westerns are very popular amongst like boomers in Serbia and surrounding countries. But no, I shouldn't be consulted on pop culture. As I said, I don't consume a lot of media, but the things I am interested in, I'm very interested in. Are these new woke movies any good? I don't know. I haven't watched. But, like, I watched The Hobbit, unfortunately, and I have suppressed it sufficiently in my mind. The utter disgrace of what has been done with it. The only thing I'm perfectly happy with is you have Thranduil being an arrogant bastard, which is what the elves are supposed to be. Like, that's like the whole problem with them. They had a penis joke in it. A penis joke in a Tolkien film. God bloody damn it. Rachel Wilson would be excellent to study feminism in Hollywood. Yes, and who knows how much of it she already has done. You're not aware of the penis joke, the infamous one, Dr. Crispy, where Killy is like, was it Killy and Philly were like imprisoned, and then that red-headed elf comes around and says something about his pants, and he's like, "Well, maybe you should check it out." I'm like, no, I did not just live to see this. Yeah, don't. Yeah, stick to the book. You're not missing anything. The disappointment is an understatement. Like the CGI, like just god awful. And then I'm getting legitimately upset about this. So you have the Battle of the Five Armies, right? And so you have the dwarves arraying themselves, into a phalanx. So you have the dwarves. They're well armored. They're small and sturdy, very strong. Arraying themselves into a not a testudo, but like a shield wall plus a spear formation. And then whether Thranduil will do something about it, it's an expectation as the Azog troops are marching, advancing on them. And what did they do? The elves, the famous archers, they jump over the dwarves and start fighting. So, what? So you have the heavily armored dwarves in the front. You have the best archers in the entire thing, the entire universe, behind them. And instead of switching to it, and how many bloody films have like walls of arrows raining down on the enemies, which would indicate the same thing. No, they jump over because it's cooler looking. And again, the CGI is atrocious. Sup girl, says Chase Hagar. I don't know why he's calling Dr. Crispy a girl. Not very nice of him. This is the first time I've seen Posh get upset. Yeah, there are a couple of things people can ask me about to get upset, and I can't believe it. You know, I watched it in the cinema, and I never watched it again. Or never downloaded it, never watched it home. Yes, Chase should be banned because he's a foreigner, because he plays gypsy jazz, and gypsy jazz is from gypsies. Gypsies are from India. Therefore, now with the new Trump administration, I'm not emphasizing that, Chris Lestrange. I don't know why I keep saying Lestrange, but I feel compelled to. Chase voted Jill Stein. You know what's funnier? It's gayer. It would have been gayer to vote for, Chase Oliver. Was it Chase Oliver, or am I just reading Chase's name? I think his name was actually Chase Oliver. The Libertarian Party, Christ. Everyone in the entire thing was just stepping over themselves to be as bad as possible. No, Chase, you can't just leave. The fun is into the deportation. But because you didn't vote for Chase Oliver, you are allowed to stay. I know you had a bias, same name. That. I would have fallen for it too. But you want to jump on? Sure. I'll let's do that, and then I'll finish this off. I'll send it to you on Instagram because I can't allow this to go on for too long, because I'm starting to lose quite a bit of focus. Let's see. Chase Hagar. There we go. I refute Serbia. I have a TAS argument, transcendental argument for Serbia. Was it the last time or the time before that I had Doomadoxy on, and it became an absolute, carnival of a stream? Here he is.
Yo.
Well.
Let me switch to my head. All right.
Ahead.
So I'm gonna turn my video off because you don't deserve to see me, and people haven't super chatted.
Thank you.
So I'll turn it on. I'll turn it off. I'll turn it on once people super chat enough.
You see, people say a lot about Chase, but you can't say he isn't merciful.
You can't say he's not merciful. People say a lot about Chase, and none of it is TOS friendly. So I just tuned in. So I know I saw you on Twitter having some, not quite black pill, but pretty much no optimism. Is that I didn't see your stream, so can you recap kind of what you feel about it? Sorry, I missed your earlier.
Yeah. Well, since about like the 2-hour mark, it was just being angry at the Hobbit films. So
which you both know.
You cut out.
Oh, I glitched out. I was saying we both know Trump is responsible for the Hobbit films.
I would imagine so. But basically, I said I expected him to get in, but
here, I'm glitching out. I'll be right back.
Okay. Super chat to stop Chase playing gypsy jazz. It's a very humane thing and cause to donate to. Everyone jump on when Chase posted the link in chat. That's hilarious. Tristan came in and unplugged his router. Are you there?
I had a phone call come through and it ruined everything. I don't know why. Some people are really selfish.
Was it from the Jill Stein campaign?
No, it wasn't. But you were talking about how you enjoyed the Hobbit films. So then talking about Trump, what did you think about this election?
As I said, I expected him to get in. I didn't think it would be this much of a sweep. I didn't anticipate the coalition to build around him. It's not a conservative movement. Let's be clear about it. It's a populist movement. I'll say. It's just popular things based on like cultural impulses and being annoyed with a lot of things that have been done by this administration.
Sure.
But seeing responses from foreign leaders, both antagonistic ones like Macron and others, but also Hamas and the Houthis calling for a ceasefire, directly appealing to him, contrasting that with the situation in Israel where things are very unstable and doing very poorly on the fronts. There is a chance that gets shut down before things. Who's calling shut it down now? But
well, real quick, just on the cultural side,
right?
Like I agree with you that this is not actual conservatism, right?
Yeah.
But this is still a huge win.
Absolutely.
This is the important thing, is that it's a big win, and we've gone miles to the left. All of culture is miles to the left. We just took 2 steps to the right after 40 years of going to the left. And it's not a conservative movement, but at the same time, we need to participate in these small incremental steps to shift the Overton window back over to a reasonable place to then, actually have a real conservative movement.
Absolutely. And it's in the right direction. And should the administration be successful, it will be quite a normalizing thing for being conservative after so much of media has been incredibly on the woke side, on the very far end of just cultural progressivism. They're not even that economically progressive because we know they have different views on things, not very easy to capitalize on. But at the same time, we are seeing, like, having someone like Tony Hinchcliffe, that is a normalizing thing. Again, not the biggest of fans, but it is breaking the mold of allowable comedy.
Yes.
So we're getting the F slur back. It's just a matter of time. And
it's just a matter of time. Make slurs great again. And then again, to caveat all of this, we can't wait. I'm not telling people that I think everyone should go and focus all of their life on politics. I'm not saying that whatsoever. Hey, maybe you are called to be involved in politics. My godfather is extremely involved in politics. Andrew is extremely involved in politics.
Yes.
That's part of what they're supposed to be doing. I think they have a gift for it. It's a good thing. Not everyone's called for that, just like not everyone's called for autistic philosophy debates. It's fine, but taking the 5 minutes to go vote and participate, when people like RFK Jr., he gets a lot of things right. Him just being in the cultural zeitgeist as a mainstream thing, talking about food, talking about raw milk, talking about the FDA, these are big wins. Fluoride in the water, and it's just him even bringing this up in the cultural zeitgeist. These are big wins that we should feel optimistic about, and we should not, in our day-to-day lives, use discretion, obviously. I'm not saying talk politics with everyone in your life at work.
No.
But if you have some goofball person who's like, I'm just so depressed. Like, I had a coworker leave work early on Wednesday.
Oh yeah, I saw you talk about that.
And he's a cool guy. I like him. But like, he's obviously depressed about it. It's like,
Yeah.
but when people bring up at work or something, I can't believe Trump won. Maybe don't keep your head down. Maybe say, "Oh no, I voted for him." And if they freak out, you can say, "Hey, I don't demonize people who voted for Kamala. Don't you think it's kind of silly that they called people that supported Trump and Trump himself, tiny mustache man and racist and all this stuff?" This is the stuff that we need to, participate in. And we need to realize we can't be like the Baptists and the evangelicals who go, well, this person is not like Trump's not expressly going to ban. He said he's not going to ban abortion, so I'm not going to vote for him.
Federal
ban. We'll never have any steps to getting to ban abortion then.
Yeah, someone on Friday on Jim Bob's stream said, aren't you a hypocrite? Trump said he wouldn't support a federal abortion ban. And you voted for less abortion as opposed to super abortion.
Super abortion, yeah. There was some debate that I watched a couple minutes of it. It was Andrew against someone, and the guy kept using the word turbo for everything. It was like a turbo fascist. A turbo coup. You voted for turbo abortion.
Yeah, that may be a marketing strategy,
Well, I'm pretty sure that Turbo was the name of the superhero from Jingle All the Way. So I think this actually ties into Arnold Schwarzenegger. Have you seen that movie?
No, I literally know it because of Conan O'Brien had like this segment where they would have, like back in the early 2000s, where a screen would drop and you had the face of the person and just the mouth would be moving, and had Robert Smigel do like impressions, and they had Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he was like always unhinged, but he would always somehow shill for Jingle All the Way. I'm aware of the film, but I watched only parts of it when I was younger.
Yeah, and the Jingle All the Way is a classic, but again, like Trump's already come out and said he's going to sign executive orders to ban the government from and private companies from trying to censor any legal free speech.
Yeah, I've seen his.
These are huge wins if he does that. And again, he hasn't done it yet. He said he's going to, but if he does that, these are big wins. And people, I think that people have been black-pilled, and it's a trap. And I think they're stuck in a dialectic of it's either an orthodox theocrat or someone, even if they're not orthodox, and it's one of your non-orthodox viewers, it's like, oh, it's some strictly very actually conservative Christian leader, or nothing. That's a trap, and we shouldn't be falling into that.
Yeah. The perfect being the enemy of the good being a classical one. One white pilling thing is the two age demographics that were pro-Trump, I mentioned this in the stream, are Gen Z and Gen X.
Yeah.
And millennials and boomers. And here's the thing, you have a lot of rhetoric, and have had it for quite a while, that old people are just holding back progress.
Yep.
It's just these curmudgeon-y boomers who want everything to go back to like the 60s or whatever, to Woodstock. Like, Trump never did particularly well with the boomers.
Mm-hmm.
He was always for the younger. you were accused.
What I tell you in private, wait, just real quick. Like, I'm not confirming or denying Keenan's post, but Keenan, what I tell you in private is meant to be kept in private. But he's a liar. But Keenan,
a time will come where it will be shouted from the rooftops. The time has not yet come.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, no, I agree with you. The Gen Z and Gen X, like, I have my godson is Gen Z, and a bunch of his friends are just tired, and he's Orthodox, obviously, but the ones who aren't, or are even totally secular and atheist or agnostic, they are sick of the demonization, and they're sick of the identity politics. Right. They're sick of the hyper emotionally charged stuff and seeing people shave their heads in protest of presidents winning. They're tired of it. And we need to capitalize on this, and we have people who and I'm sure I'm fine to catch some flack here, but we have people that, again, we want, like you said, we don't want to think that we can just have some we're never going to have a perfect earthly system.
No.
We want the best system that we can participate in for the salvation of our nation and the peace of the world as we can at the time. That's what we want. Yeah. And we have people like, again, any of these people can flip at any second. I'm not saying there's some saint or anything, obviously, but people that aren't even remotely Christian. Vivek Ramaswamy has good policy that he's promoted, and he's well-spoken.
Yes. I don't trust him for a moment, but
I don't trust him either. But I'm just saying,
self-interested enough to be somewhat consistent, at least.
Exactly. And it's like, look, well, again, does this mean hyper-focus all your energy into this stuff? No. Does it mean I think you should take 5 minutes during the elections.
He can't. He's sporting Crucible merch. He can't.
If you guys super chat enough, I'll shave my head live on stream in protest of the election. That's gonna be $10,000 super chatted by the end of the stream.
By an individual.
Yeah.
Well, now everyone's got all the money in the world because Trump won.
Yeah, I mean, I went out and I took out a couple car loans. Things are going to be okay. I got a second mortgage on my house.
I was a lot more black-pilled earlier on. Before, like when you had the assassination attempt, the first one, I think Trump's started really going back to his roots as far as rhetorics and stuff, which is much more effective, much more engaging.
And entertaining.
Oh, absolutely. I even had a post that if there's no other reason to vote for Trump, and I thought there weren't many, I was wrong, or at least he has shifted enough. Mm-hmm. Today I mentioned he said Nikki Haley and Mike Pompeo are not going to be
dude. Oh, and let's hope another Warhawk neocon doesn't get in there. But please not Marco Rubio, because Marco Rubio, my brother was telling me about the South America stuff. He is so involved in the destruction of South American sovereignty and their energy. It's terrible. Anyway, sorry.
But did you hear he said we need to stop the war in Ukraine?
Dude, yes, during the debate. Twice.
No. It was in an interview.
Yeah. But even when he was campaigning, he said that. So it wasn't even a shift. I don't know if you saw this. I agree with you. One of the coolest things that people should feel, again, optimistic about is that during his debate with Kamala, with low IQ Kamala, they go, President Trump, do you support Ukraine winning the war? And he says, I want the war to end.
I want the killing to stop.
And the killing to stop. And then they asked again, let me clarify. Do you want Ukraine to win? And so he knew this was a total attempted gotcha, and he didn't stutter. He didn't stutter at all. He goes, I want the war to end. He is not a war hawk. He is not a war hawk. He doesn't want war. We should feel optimistic.
Bolton, he's completely going off on Bolton, has been for a while, which is white pilling. Actually, mm-hmm. I'm not used to saying white pilling.
Dude, I mean, it's been literally our whole lives. The United States has had horrible. Trump is easily, even with the lockdowns, Trump was the best. I'm 31. He's the best president of my life, easily, even though he got neutered by the shutdowns. And those were terrible.
But that's more state government. That's
he
why
put it back to the states. He said, I'm not gonna federally do any of this. I'm putting it back to the states.
We shouldn't ascribe some type of arcane knowledge to him, especially in the first term, whereby he can ascertain proper action.
He's supposed to focus most of his specs on charisma. He's more of a bard. He's not really a bard mage. He's more bard, maybe with focus mostly on melee weapons.
Yes, which we have seen in the debate.
With a golf club. A golf club is his proficiency. He has +5 proficiency in golf club. He's a bard class, okay? He's a brute bard class in Baldur's Gate terms.
I never played it, but I understand what it means.
Yeah, we know you guys don't have Baldur's Gate in Serbia. We know.
I'm not going to pretend that's a bad thing.
You guys don't have internet there. We know.
This is all a series of messenger pigeons.
Yeah.
But that's important. We've seen exit polls show shifts in racial demographics going towards Trump, which when stigma is broken, that's going to start being more exponential than linear, because I mentioned the Morning Joe show with Mika Brzezinski and Al Sharpton, talking about the racism that exists between minorities.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really? I never could have figured it out myself. So maybe they're trying to pivot to the reality that, okay, we're going to have to go for someone. We can't just have the category non-white as a voting bloc. That's falling apart with the Latino men and Native Americans, 60+%.
Yeah. And if you look at the counties, there's that hilarious clip on, I think it was CNN, where they go, now let's look at the counties that compared to how is last election, see how Kamala did compared to Biden, and there's nothing. And the other correspondent goes, wait, nothing? Yeah. Literally nothing. The entire country, every county moved further red in the entire country. Yes, every county went more red. And again, it's like I see some comments and I understand people, being frustrated with certain things that that I can't really talk about because I use my real name and I'm in the United States. But the unabashed, blind militaristic support of certain allies, I get it. We can take some W's though. Like we can take a couple W's, yes. We can't wait for the perfect candidate to go and spend 5 minutes to go vote.
It's impossible because there is a sort of narcissism in this, mega turbo cynicism. Where people, cynics, people say behind every cynic is a disappointed idealist, but I would say, a narcissistic disappointed, idealist, because I've never met a cynic who wasn't completely narcissistic, and they don't consider themselves cynics other than in like a throwaway comment. They'll call themselves a realist. Yeah. So who else does that? Everyone. No one says, "Oh no, I'm just an idiot. I just hope that this will happen and it will manifest." Everyone considers themselves realists, but they love to wallow in despair. It's like a trough of black pills. They love engaging in that, and there's a sense of superiority in it. You don't even know. If you had my knowledge, if you had my analytical skills, you would know how everything is effed, and then justify drug abuse. I don't know. Yeah.
No, it's interesting though, and even just the cultural significance of, again, I agree with you completely that no, this is not like an actual conservative movement. I agree with you. But the cultural significance of, like they were doing analytics of Trump's ads, and one of the most effective ones that they started doing towards the end of the campaign was Kamala's for they, them. Trump's for you. That was one of the most effective ads they said line. The short form ads, they said that one was super effective and was getting shared. Like, people were positively reacting to that a lot. And the fact that Trump said, I'm going to immediately do executive order banning any minor surgeries. Yep. Just the slight cultural shift is something that we should all be. It's a small tap of the foot on the gas in the direction that we want the country to go, and hopefully we take advantage of it and we push it and we we take that tiny bit of momentum and actually steer things towards the direction that we want them to go.
Yes.
That's the only way we're going to make change happen. We're not going to make change happen going, purity signaling every single person politically until they're perfect to the point where we don't vote for a better direction if it's not perfect. We'll never make any progress.
The only purity spiraling I support is church dogma. That's it.
Yeah. Yep.
Because I can one thing to also remember, like Hispanics and blacks tend to be more culturally conservative, compared to whites. So the thing that kept them in line with voting Democrat was more the social democratic aspects of the economic policy. But and this is why I believe it was better to have 4 years of Biden, is because then you had the counterexample of how they handled things. One of my favorite things was whenever Kamala was confronted with the economic record, she would say, a lot of it is due to the mismanagement of the previous administration. And
that's actually a pretty good Kamala.
The first time I tried it... Do you have the
cackle? Do you have the...
No, my voice doesn't go high enough. I sound like Fran Drescher more than I do Kamala. But the first time I tried doing an impression of her was on stream, and I had a moment of existential crisis. Like, why was that a half decent Kamala impression? But
and I just want to point out we have a shill in your chat. It's made by Jim Bob, I guess is his name, and he's a hater. He kind of follows me around the internet. I'm not 28, but thank you. I appreciate it. Anyway, you should avoid that guy. He's sketchy. He voted for Kamala at least 3 times. His whole state turned blue. Mine turned red. So that kind of tells you.
Andrew's turned red.
Andrew's turned red. So again, these colors don't run. So but we can get back to serious discussion. You got a troll in the chat.
Let me finish the previous point, if I can remember. Previous mismanagement. The mismanagement of the previous administration never got into the details of it, but sort of like what is in the UK, like the Labour Party was the opposition during COVID, and stayed in the opposition until after COVID, and have not even had a full year of a Labour government. They were all for lockdown harder.
Yep.
You didn't have the Democrats saying, "Oh, well, this is quite unreasonable." So that also is going to have an effect on the perception of the people on the economic outcomes. As it relates to whom you're going to elect. And the economy is, if you went on Twitter, it was like, yeah, Latinos, great job, good luck when all of you are deported.
Yeah, dude, it's funny how racist the leftists suddenly got. They think all Latinos are illegal.
But I saw Latinos posting epic memes. Like me right now, knowing that all the woke tards are upset with me, then different, videos and stuff.
My favorite ones were the understated ones, where it's just some Latino dude just goes, "Can you stop calling me Latin X now?" just the simple matter of fact ones that were just like, your very identity politics are an insult to my language. my first language. Please stop. Can we stop this now, please?
Yes, it was always a tenuous alliance between these groups and the Democratic Party. That's a given, but there's only so much that tenuous alliance can endure before it breaks. And I'm hoping that with this being some type of breaking point of flexion, where it starts to trend more to be on policy, because the culture is beginning to also become more and more rebellious against the woke thing. I mentioned like the Kill Tony thing. It's a massive thing in comedy. All the other comedians, what are they doing? I don't know if you saw Bill Burr. He hosted SNL.
I saw the first couple seconds of it, and I didn't watch the whole thing.
It was difficult to watch, and he's a very funny fellow. Cringes some of his positions may be. Like, he's funny. He's like from Boston. He's got the accent. He's got the aggression.
Funny. He's from Boston. Need I say more?
Yeah. Him, Joe Rogan.
Boston? You get it. You guys get it.
I mean, he's got the accent. He's got the temperament, like the Irish temperament. But, he is funny. But what do you do? With these people who think it's the end of the world right now. So I saw the Onion post a funny thing, which I can't believe happened.
Yeah, right.
The old Onion is epic.
Yeah, they've gone so downhill the last year or two, at least, that I've seen their memes.
Right, and they posted one like pundits preparing, which demographic to blame for losing. It was like a classic short skit, very funny. Not on the level of the old one, but
But yeah, I mean, they're not
are gone, and
they're not from Boston. Yeah, we
probably.
If they were from Boston, that would make it really funny, because you get it, like they're from Boston.
Yeah, these were like people from Massachusetts, so it's still somewhat influenced by it.
Well, I mean, I just got to point out, like, I'm not trying to have a bunch of arguments with the chat, but I see Jim Bob just in there following me around, insulting me. This dude doesn't even shave his arms. You ask him to show you, for him to show you his tummy, he won't even respond. I've tried numerous times. He's super sketch. Yeah, he's super effeminate. I've asked him dozens of times to show me his tummy, and he just ignores it.
Yeah, you told me you were on his window of his home. Show me the tummy, and he wouldn't. Like,
he just walked away. He just walked away like a coward.
Zero hospitality.
If you guys really want to support, some little man like that, be my guest. But anyway, I'm not trying to get negative and fight with your chat. But yeah, I know you wanted to wrap it up, but I saw you talking about this. Wanted to hear your thoughts. Thanks for having me on, man. I'll let you get back to it. And
I'm about to get closing up. It's a good call, and you can rewatch I've talked about a lot of things like the geopolitical projections I personally have, and I said basically I'm optimistic but not naive. Like that's the essence of it, and we'll see how things develop.
Everything's different now, Posh.
Yeah,
everything's changed.
Yeah. They will make good Hobbit trilogy now.
Yeah.
With Orlando,
you talked about the geopolitical implications of the Hobbit.
Other than causing me to become some type of Unabomber.
Oh my gosh! Well, I should head out now. I do not endorse or support any statements made while I was present.
Just let me check this out if it's something. Zorched for $5, thank you, says Posh. Libs constantly argue these two contradictory points. Trump's policies are based on xenophobia, and he declined a perfectly good border bill.
He declined. He wasn't even in office, but he didn't want Republicans to sign the Ukraine bill that had a slight addendum to the border that would allow for X amount of millions of illegals in.
Yeah, in exchange for a couple more, border officers.
Yeah, exactly. No,
wouldn't be allowed to do anything.
Yeah,
and let's not forget, Texas was trying to close it down, and federal agents went to destroy barriers erected by Texas. So active, not just encouragement of immigration, which Biden did in the primaries. Saying they should come. That's what we do. That's who we are. Blah, 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 blah. So it's rubbish. They were aggressively against stopping the border problem, and I don't know how it's legal in the US. You start, saving like finches, Darwin's finch.
You know what I'd love for Republicans to do is start naming bills the most positive sounding things, and so that then they can play the same game back where it's like, we just presented the Healthy America bill, but it's all like, deportations is what's in it, but they just title it something,
and every
Affordable
household
America Act, and it's just like, just something that has nothing to do with it that we need to get through.
Well, they did create the Patriot Act.
I mean the patient. Yeah, yep.
So
yep.
when it's bad.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hey, I'll let you go, man. I hope you have a good one. Thanks for having me on.
God bless.
Yeah.
That was a fun interjection by Chase Hagar. Sporting Crucible merch, as you could see. So this was fun, a great way to end the stream, and we managed to recapitulate and get his angle on things. So that's good. Serbia refuted. So thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for all of you who have contributed financially. It's been great. As you can see, I'm starting to lose steam, and I'm not the most fast talking person when I'm at peak condition. So okay, wait, says Matthew James Beebe. Okay, how do I call in? What is it about? Because I'm really challenge my orthodoxy. We'll do it next time. I can't. I've been for 3 hours and it's literally 1 a.m. in Serbia, so I can't do that. So the chat doesn't move too quickly if you just message in. Am I being trolled? Is this what's being done? Am I being trolled when I'm tired? I've been awake since 7 a.m. Yeah, Matthew is concerning, although I did recognize Matthew. Oh, you may not be trailing, which is interesting. So you can jump on next time if you are interested in having a debate. That's fine, but not after 3 hours of a completely different topic. Always run when a prot comes. Damn it! You keep pushing me left and right on whether this is a troll. Justin Henley for $5. Thank you. Says, God bless all of you champions. Here's $5 American. Now proper American dollars. If someone donates like the Trump coin to me, I'll be eternally grateful. Right, we should check out who's live. Mods, do you know anyone who's live right now? Because I didn't see anyone scheduled to go live except for Liz, but we started at the same time, so Sam Shamoon is live. But he is not an author, bro, but nope, no one is live. Except Sam Shamoon, as far as I can see. SOS in 1 hour, yeah. Is he a Uniate? I believe he went for Catholicism. Sam is a coward too. Oh, goodness. I've never heard someone use prot in a non-negative sense. Yeah, so never mind. We're just going to disband to our individual celebrations of the world being saved, literally. So that's it for me. It's been a long day, but it's been a good day. So, God bless you all. And we should study of stuff radio is study of stuff live. If so, then everyone go to study of stuff radio. It's been great. Matthew, if you message me next time, we can have a discussion. Again, thank you. God bless, and God bless America.